Each week, you have a chance to win a t-shirt from Pro Wrestling Tees during Review of Raw. All you have to do is pay attention for the secret question and then submit your answer at Law Radio on Twitter, and you'll be entered into a draw to win your t-shirt, including our own brand of shirts at prowrestlingtees.com/law.
Review of Raw for Monday night. Download a Tuesday morning from the Fight Network site. It's Review of Raw for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the mic.
Welcome, everybody, to Review of Raw. It's John Pollock, and I am joined by Wai Ting.
I'm here.
The man who has not given up yet on the Toronto Blue Jays, who are showing life here in May.
I heard they lost 10-3 today.
Yeah, it ended a good run, though. They've done well over the past week. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a hat, isn't it?
It's not just that.
That's what I keep telling
It's
myself.
loyalty. It's a sign. You left your house today to represent one team, and it was the Toronto Blue Jays and a gray sweater.
No, I came here to represent one brand, and that is Review of Raw.
The best brand.
Yes.
Yes, we never go through losing streaks. Well, we have quite the episode of Raw to discuss from beautiful Newark, New Jersey.
Beautiful. Have you been?
I've been to Newark. It was not one of my favorite UFC events that I ever covered, where I stayed at a hotel by the airport.
Yeah.
Did not have a great time.
I feel bad. I feel bad for anybody who's from New York. But you know, Newark. But when you're from a town that is universally kind of like slighted and described as I don't know, not a very pleasant experience to be at, it must toughen you. You know, it's like being from a really rough neighborhood, and like, you know, you get to feel like, yeah, I grew up in terrible surroundings. Bayonne?
Bayonne.
Is it that bad? I've never been.
There's a lot of weirdos that come out of Bayonne. At least one.
Yeah.
Well, they were in the Prudential Center on Monday night. And out to start the show was Kurt Angle, who was back after his week hiatus, and says that Braun Strowman has shattered his elbow, and he could be out for up to 6 months after surgery. He will not be out for 6 months.
Yes, so this news was released by the WWE today in a press release, or a website article stating that he has, the doctors have found further damage to his elbow, and he's out 6 months. But you did some journalistic digging, and what did you hear?
Yes, I spoke to people today and was given the timetable that he's expected back in about 8 weeks.
Okay.
So it looks like this is just storyline, the extent of this injury, which kind of, I'm glad the man is going to be okay and it's not a worse injury. He's a major part of Raw. But I really wanted to start off today's episode. I mean, how often could I use Gone Till November as a song to open it up, and it works out perfectly lengthwise?
I think you should do that anyway. It's part of the storyline.
It's inaccurate, though. If someone just listens to 30 seconds, they're going to leave this show with misinformation, and that part would weigh on me.
My question is, though, did they overshoot themselves by stating 6 months instead of maybe a bit more realistic 3 months?
Probably. I don't know what I feel like this is going to be out there to the vast majority, that they know this is not going to be a 6-month recovery for Braun Strowman, and that the miracle recovery is not going to be as big as maybe they anticipate it's going to be. Like if he shows up here at the end of June, like he's John Cena miraculously coming back earlier than expected. But we'll see. I think that Raw is definitely hurt with his absence. There is no question about that.
Yeah.
So that is the timetable. It looks like 8 weeks. And I guess that Great Balls of Fire show, they are going ahead with a main event involving Brock Lesnar, not with Braun Strowman as we had figured for July. So it looks like Braun, whether he can work that show or not, they're going to hold off that Lesnar match. And I would make that SummerSlam, Brock and Braun.
Sure.
I think that that's the direction you could go. And I feel like that's a match that they've teased it, and people want that match, and that is perfectly capable of being one of your main events at SummerSlam at the Barclays Center, where I think the crowd will be nuts for that match in New York.
I think so.
Get on a train from Bayonne, go down to the Barclays Center, go wild, and then you have to go back to New Jersey.
Yeah.
So anyway, Kurt goes on to say that Brock Lesnar's next challenge will be determined with the Fatal 5-Way at Extreme Rules. 4 men will die, and the winner will face Brock Lesnar for the Universal title. He doesn't say when, but we can, make the assumption it will be the July pay-per-view. And said, did you catch this? Someone's going to have the balls to face Brock Lesnar.
The Great Balls?
The Great Balls will be crowned at Extreme Rules, and a man will leave with bronze testicles that they will get to cash in for a title shot.
I don't know if I'm dreading or looking forward to the build-up to that pay-per-view and all the balls.
You and I will love it, but they'll be so silly.
Oh, yeah.
And not cohesive or conducive to a main event build. Like, could you imagine whoever this is, Bray Wyatt, having to cut promos about Brock Lesnar, my great balls. Like, how do you cut a... Paul Heyman, to me, is going to be the funnest promos to listen to. This is what you have to push every single time in your promos. So he names the 5. It will be Seth Rollins. I liked how they did this with the graphic of each guy facing Brock Lesnar as your hypothetical to go off crowd reaction, which I'm sure they were paying attention to see what kind of a reaction would we do.
Absolutely.
I always go back to the night of the final Nitro when Vince kind of ran through these WCW names and kind of gauging reaction based on that.
And in a roundabout way, thus we got Buff Bagwell versus Booker T in the first WCW on Raw.
We also that night got Jeff Jarrett being fired on Raw, and subsequently was the kind of birth of TNA that night.
Kind of.
In a weird way.
But I did enjoy this because it gave you that visualization of every participant in that match going up against Brock. And at least from my perspective, none of them seemed all that out of place. I would say everybody that is involved in this 5-way is a legit main eventer, and any of them versus Brock is an interesting matchup, except for maybe Roman and Seth, who we've already seen.
Yeah, I thought Rollins got really very little reaction, and then they showed Joe. Balor got a ton of cheers. I think he got the most. Then they showed Bray Wyatt and then Reigns, who, of course, tons of boos. But it was Balor and Reigns that got the highest level of volume of reaction. So Angle is getting set to leave, and his own theme plays, and he stops in his tracks expecting the next person to come out before he clues in. There's a 2-second delay where he realizes, oh, that's my music. So then he goes to proceed to leave, and then Roman Reigns' music plays. But go and watch this as Kurt is just caught in the headlights.
I imagine when you're leaving a WWE ring after you've spoken without anybody else coming into the ring, you're just expecting, you're just on the lookout for somebody to interrupt you.
Reigns says they don't need a fatal 5-way because he is the #1 contender. He beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. He put Braun Strowman in that ambulance, and he's the only guy that can beat Brock Lesnar.
I found it pretty interesting the way they scripted Roman here because it seemed very indicative of cowardly heel booking. A guy who comes out and basically complains that he has to prove himself again to qualify for a title match.
He's Damian Maya.
Sure, or any UFC fighter, really. Outside of George St. Pierre.
Feels he's earned the title match.
But, I feel like he was booked here as somebody who's looking for the easy way out instead of taking on the challenge.
I really don't get incensed over all the discussion about the Reigns turn or not. All I'm saying is that if you have been one of those people that have been clamoring for a turn, how can you possibly not be enjoying the way he's being booked at the moment?
All you have to do is...
I wouldn't change anything about him at the moment.
Well, all you have to do is judge the crowd reaction this guy receives in his matches versus who we saw in the actual main event tonight in Bray Wyatt as a lead heel.
They're not fighting it. They're not trying to put the wool over your eyes. They're playing to those reactions, and Roman is responding accordingly.
He's by far the most over heel on this show.
Reigns... Yeah, I'm with you on that. Finn Balor then was next and said he beat Roman on his first night on Raw last summer. Then Joe's out talking about actions and results and goes over what he's done to Seth Rollins. He's going to win the 5-way. Then they were interrupted by Bray with the lights going out, and he appeared in the middle of the ring and says he can feel the others trembling over Brock, and they will cower, fall, and run. And then finally, our Price is Right opening segment concluded with Seth Rollins, who said Extreme Rules is a long time away. They're going to mix it up a lot, and it leaves a lot of time for talk. Very accurate as we start our 9.5-hour build for Extreme Rules.
That is a lot of time to build to a number one contenders match.
9.5 hours of Raw.
God help them.
But 310 of it is gone tonight.
Yeah.
They got through night one.
Well, I mean, they also have other programs like Goldust versus Booker T. That will certainly help.
R-Truth way.
Sorry.
Oh, my gosh.
When I think of Goldust, I think
Are you running the UFC Twitter account?
Anyway, we will edit that out. No, we won't. I thought a good segment, though, overall. To start the show, they needed to address the curveball that they were thrown with the Braun Strowman injury, and I thought they did that, and they laid out their very clear contingency plan very well.
And you like this direction?
I do. I think really it's your only direction. Brock's not going to be there, so what's the next best thing? A number one contenders match involving all of your main eventers. And I think the idea that you're putting all 5 of these men into this match kind of cements their 5 statuses, at least for this month, as main eventers. And with the prize being Brock Lesnar, which they hammered home throughout the entire show, who is brave enough to face the Beast. And I thought it was a good, laid out very simply, effectively, and it kind of acts as a good jumping on point for new viewers as well.
It's probably the best choice because I really like the idea of Lesnar and Strowman, and I don't know that is happening at SummerSlam, but if you were to be going with the original plan of just hoping Braun's ready for the July pay-per-view, which I'm going to keep calling it that because it just sounds silly. If you were going to do that, then this Extreme Rules pay-per-view becomes such a lame duck event. At least they're using this to build to the next one with a title shot. Yep. Because if Braun was earmarked for Lesnar in July, what are you doing on this pay-per-view? That's why I threw out the Shield reunion as just something to get you through this month. So they're at least using this to build to the next one, and then Braun can come back after.
You're really going to have to start doing that with a lot of your B shows now that your roster is split and now that you have a champion who's not going to appear at all of your pay-per-views. You have to do slow builds, and that means pit stops with these B shows that are only number one contenders matches, and I really don't have a problem with it.
They all brawled after Rollins came out, climaxing with Rollins hitting a Tope Con Hero. Oh, sorry, it was Finn who hit the Tope Con Hero onto Reigns and Rollins. Then backstage after the break, Reigns, Balor, and Rollins are arguing when Kurt walks up, stating that we don't handle our issues backstage. This is new. And instead, he's going to make some matches tonight with Rollins taking on Bray Wyatt and Reigns taking on Finn Balor. Show kicked off in the ring with Jeff Hardy and Sheamus, and we got a slow-motion replay of the dental hygienist himself, Sheamus, kicking Jeff's tooth out at Payback. I'm sure Jeff was just overjoyed after this rigorous European tour. You fly back, you got one more night, and you've got a match with Sheamus. Great.
The announcers tried to build this match as if it was Jeff getting revenge for that tooth break.
Yeah, I guess that was settled. There was a Brother Nero chant. He caught Jeff on a pescado, threw him into the barricade. Back from break, Hardy made his comeback. He did this backflip onto his feet, and then Sheamus hit this flying knee to the face. That I don't know I would have been as trusting as when Jeff Hardy on this one, but he seemed fine.
I'm sure he felt really bad about that tooth break, and he's taken every precaution to be as safe as possible.
Well, I'm just saying Jeff is an extremely trusting individual in the ring.
Maybe he should get a mouth guard.
That would be a wonderful idea for Jeff. Yeah. Sheamus skinned the cat onto the turnbuckle and then came off, and Jeff was going for a twist of fate. It turned into more of a stunner for a 2 count. And then Matt stopped Cesaro on the apron. Jeff was throwing towards Matt, but pulled up. Then Sheamus went for a brogue kick, missed Jeff, and he missed Matt as well. Yeah. And Matt wouldn't sell it, so Sheamus had to do it a second time, which was the right call.
Yeah, he shouldn't have. Yeah.
And then Jeff hit a twist of fate and a swanton, and the Hardys win again.
That is the storyline. The Cesaro and Sheamus cannot beat the Hardys, even in singles or tag team scenarios, which is very backwards considering that...
They did so much work for these guys last week. I mean, I was very high on the tag turmoil. Yeah. But we're going right back to this.
Well, they've already set a precedent for it. If you have Sheamus and Cesaro winning now, it kind of undoes everything that they've done so far, right, in the pecking order. The problem is, it is strange because you have the babyface champions being incredibly dominant and a heel team that just can't get it together to beat them. So I also didn't feel the announcers kind of driving that home enough. The fact that Sheamus and Cesaro had pretty much lost every type of match they've had against the Hardys. So the question that the announcers should be asking is, what do Sheamus and Cesaro need to do in order to change their game and in order to finally beat the Hardys?
And why the Hardys have to defend their titles against these guys again?
Well, they won the Tag Team Turmoil match.
Well, they keep beating them. I mean, are they just trying to kill my interest in this match? I want to be invested in this. Give me a reason.
It is totally backwards in terms of a heel babyface dynamic for it, but at least it's consistent. That's what you can say.
I guess on our night of many screwjob finishes, this was not one that they were going to tinker with.
I thought the match was just kind of overall a little bit... honestly, it was very average up until the finish, which was unfortunately botched, so I kind of found it a bit below average, if I have to be honest. I also feel like for all the mention of the teeth-breaking incident, they didn't really call attention to it enough. At least the announcers didn't, and I didn't feel it in the match as well.
Yeah, and watching this match, granted, these guys are all off that incredibly lengthy tour. I don't think you can really look at Monday's Raw. I'm sure all of these guys are just exhausted after this tour. But I also look at Jeff Hardy that, I mean, there is such a big opening for a single star. And I just wonder if Jeff Hardy if he can hold up that kind of a schedule. And be doing singles matches on the road all weekend and doing 15 minutes on Raw every Monday like the other main eventers do. Because certainly, charisma-wise, merchandise-wise, I mean, he should be there.
From the looks of things, it definitely seems like they're playing a long game with the Hardys, starting with this nostalgia run as a tag team and then possibly breaking off with the Broken Matt Hardy character. So it'll probably be quite a while, several months down the road before Jeff Hardy gets a singles push.
They did make an angle out of Sasha Banks and Alicia Fox with the big shoulder issue last week, and we got a rematch with Sasha and Alicia. Noam Dar was in Alicia's corner. Fox hit her Northern Lights suplex for a 2 count, and Booker says Sasha was the flavor of the month. Not quite sure if she's the boss anymore, though. Banks comes back with a tilt-a-whirl head scissors, running knees into the corner, and then Banks leaps onto the back of Alicia Fox, and I wish Jorge Masvidal watched this defense to get someone off of his back. Tosses Banks off her back to the floor while favoring her leg. Banks came back. She applied a small package for a 2 count, but then Alicia recovered, hit the scissors kick. The referee counted 1, 2, and 3. And Alicia Fox beat Sasha Banks clean.
No botched finish here.
No,
this was designed.
Sasha's on a losing streak.
For a clean win. I mean, it's questionable whether or not they will blame the knee injury on the apron for Sasha's loss, but the announcers really did not hammer that home. And at the end of this, I felt like they would make a bigger deal that this was an upset. This was a massive upset. You never see Alicia Fox win, period. Never mind beating Sasha Banks. You rarely see Sasha Banks lose on Raw. So I thought this was, the biggest upset of maybe either woman's career. And the announcers didn't really kind of drive that home at all. We just went to the next segment. So this really kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, I thought Fox looked like she was supposed to lose last week. So all of a sudden, this push kind of coming out of nowhere is a bit of a mystery to me, especially over Sasha Banks.
Means we're probably having a program involving these two. And maybe the idea is that Sasha's going to be turning eventually, that we can just beat her throughout this. This is probably going to be the storyline, is that she's fallen off.
I suppose.
I think it's really cooling her off.
But I would say in this match, they really kind of screwed up, and I would blame the announcers for that as well, because it really came across like a clean loss.
Cole says, and he said this twice on the show, that the Extreme Rules main event could change the course of the new era. The term that is back from the dead, the new era.
Sure. Would it still be the new era if the course has changed? It'd be the newer era.
It would have to be. We'd have to have a whole new marketing campaign.
The New West era, yeah.
Dean Ambrose versus The Miz for the Intercontinental title, a match that was announced ahead of time last week. Crowd was hot at the start of this. They quickly went through a commercial. Miz sent Ambrose into the steps during the break and had the advantage, did the Daniel Bryan kicks, built up to Ambrose hitting a suicide dive, and then Miz came off the top, avoided the dirty deeds, and there was a cradle by The Miz for a 2 count. Then Miz hit this really shitty-looking big boot. Ambrose went for the lunatic lariat and gets caught with a skull-crushing finale for a great near fall that the crowd really got into. He avoided another dirty deeds, and then Miz got clotheslined to the floor. Ambrose climbs to the top, and Miz uses Maurice as a shield. Ambrose decides to jump anyway, and Maurice ran out of the way. Maurice then distracts the referee as Ambrose stops the Miz from hitting him with a low blow, and then instead he kicks the Miz in the balls of fire, and the referee catches him, and the DQ was called. Usually, you have a lengthy match. This wasn't super long. It was about 12 minutes. I thought the crowd got into this, and Miz had some off moments, but I liked the match.
I like the match too, and I'll admit, this is not a feud that I'm really all that excited about. I feel like I just saw it on SmackDown, but I thought the match was good, and certainly the crowd bought into all the near falls and were popping for all the signature moves. The booking of the finish was a little perplexing to me. It felt like it was a babyface champion getting DQ'd to retain his title. I know that's not what he did. He was low blowing the Miz in retaliation, but I still feel like that spot should be reserved for somebody who's not the champion.
Well, I think given what they were doing for the stipulation at the pay-per-view, you can't do it the opposite way with the Miz being disqualified.
Why not?
Because he's not the champion. So why would Ambrose want a DQ stipulation attached?
Why would Ambrose want a DQ stipulation attached? I guess that's a good point.
You know what you could have done, which is honestly a better idea, would be just a no disqualification match.
Yeah.
But what they could be doing is that this is going to be the title change, that Miz gets the title.
So Dean will get DQ'd and drop the belt that way.
Or he does something that he should be disqualified for but ends up winning.
You've convinced me.
I
can't say this is driving my interest that highly, but
I hate that stipulation. The title can change on a DQ. I always hate that stipulation, but that was their decision, and I think that explains how this finish was decided upon. Charlie interviewed Finn Balor. She plugged the 24 documentary, and then, quote, "Are you ready to step into the big dog's yard?" Balor replies, Charlie, there's an old saying. It isn't about the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. Which, just the other day, me and Wai were hanging out, and I had a heart-to-heart with him, and I used this exact phrase about the size of the fight in the dog.
Are you ready to get into this big dog's yard?
Yeah. Are you ready to get into the big dog's yard?
You were standing on my sidewalk for a very long time, and I was like, are you going to get into my yard or what?
Yeah, just two adults having an adult exchange, Charlie and Finn.
I mean, I think Finn Balor's delivery is gotten better, and I thought in this episode he was totally fine. But, man, the scripting was really lame.
It may be Roman's yard, but it's his universe.
It felt like the writing on the package on the back of an action figure. You know what I mean? This felt like it was written by some marketing PR guy.
Then we had Alexa Bliss come out. She mocked Newark with these other cities' slogans, eventually calling New Jersey the sweat gland of America. I'm starting to feel bad for New Jersey. Come on. We're not exactly from heaven here in Toronto.
I'm from
Scarborough. Scarborough gets it bad.
It is the sweat gland of Toronto, I'll say. Yeah.
So
the Bluffs in particular.
Yeah. She calls them poster children of failure and brags about her titles, being smarter. They started chanting, "What?" She said, "You failures say what? What?"
She got him again.
I enjoy Alexa battling with these hecklers.
Crowd zero. And it was very amusing to see these diehards, lovers of the what chant, continue even after this, and to see them slowly dwindle in numbers, These people, these chanters, they have no stamina, and they have no loyalty, dedication.
Stephanie snaps her fingers, and they put their hands down and over their mouth.
They don't expect.
It's like they face the slightest obstacle of their united front, and they just, oh, it's raining out. I'm not picketing any longer. I'm done.
I mean, bullies are only bullies until they get talked down to, I guess.
Well, they got jabbed in the face, and they ran away here. So she goes on to state she was the first woman to win both the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships, did it on her first try here on Raw, and she would have won the Miss USA pageant last night, and tells the winner she's welcome. So Bayley is out. She hugged these children at ringside, and she gives Bliss, quote, mad props for doing everything she said she would do, but she's invoking her rematch for Extreme Rules, which got the saddest reaction to a babyface announcing her quest to go back for her championship.
It kind of did. I mean, New Jersey wasn't all too kind of Bayley, and I don't necessarily blame them because as a smart crowd, I think they favor more people that are entertaining them and the people who they feel are more talented. And at least on the mic, Alexa definitely won tonight.
Bliss says that no one will be there to save her and that Bayley will never get extreme, and tells Bayley to go sit at the kiddie table and leave the championships to the adults. So Bayley then attacks her, but then her neck is snapped on the middle rope. Bliss gets a kendo stick and attacks Bayley. And by attack, one strike to Bayley, who went down, and this got a bigger reaction than if she had hit her with 18 chair shots.
All it needed, one loud smack.
There was an ECW chant for this kendo stick shot, singular.
Yeah, I mean that's because I suppose hardcore is seen far less in the women's division, you know. But
I'm gonna make one of the weirdest comparisons I've ever made.
Yeah.
But when I watched this and the reaction it got, I mean, the point of a weapon shot of anything is to get a reaction, to maximize by using the least amount of damage.
Hold on, are you gonna bring up a comparison to the ambulance?
No.
Okay.
I couldn't. This sounds really stupid, okay?
All right.
But I think of Shibata.
Okay, go on.
And I'm just watching this reaction to a safe kendo stick shot to the back that this crowd totally was bought into.
Yeah.
And this was way better than if she had just decided to maul Bayley with 25 of these kendo stick shots, and you would have been bored by the end of this.
Sure.
That you can get so much at times out of so little.
Less is more, but would this have received 5 stars from Dave?
No, it wouldn't have, but I can guarantee Bayley, I am positive Bayley will have another match.
Yes, I will too. I thought Alexa was great here. I thought she controlled this crowd and, again, showed great confidence in the limited time she's been on the main roster.
Kurt Angle was in his office on the phone with Sammy.
Sammy Callahan?
He never specified. Who else could it be?
Sammy from the Jersey Shore.
Maybe it's Sammy Guevara, the independent wrestler. Maybe he's looking to sign him to Raw. Maybe it was Sammy Sosa.
I was about to say. Know any other Sammys? Sammy.
DJ Sammy.
Who? Sammy, like Sammy. Sam. Sammy.
Oh,
yeah,
of course.
Sammy.
He was checking on the YouTube feed.
Yeah.
So, for whatever reason,
He was on the phone with Sammy and said, "No, you don't have to call me. I'll call you back." So, on a show that he's not even on, who we could presume to be Sami Zayn is still buried.
So is this angle going to go somewhere, or will this be something that 4 weeks from now I'll say, remember that time he was on the phone with Sami Zayn and it went nowhere?
It'll go nowhere, but it's just to further the Sami Zayn is annoying backstage character, you know?
Oh, really? Is that what you got from this? I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, he said, don't call me. I'll call you back.
What a weird thing to do on Raw.
It's just, I guess it's just an inside joke. I don't know, unless they're turning into a character.
Miz and Maurice walked in stating that Ambrose made a mockery of the title, and Angle agrees he technically did win the match, and he decides to make the rematch for Extreme Rules. But Miz wants the title to be able to change hands on a DQ. And Angle agrees to this. What a silly stipulation. Like, you would honestly, as a babyface general manager, want your title to switch on a DQ like that. I thought Kurt looked like an idiot here, just acquiescing to Miz and his cowardly demand.
Well, from the looks of things, I think Kurt is kind of hurting creatively for stipulations here. He's just kind of willing to take anything. Kendo stick on a pole, you know?
Maurice then cut a promo on Kurt in French, and Kurt could probably get sentenced for first-degree murder of the French language for his response.
Is it any worse than yours or mine?
I could read French fine.
Really? You can?
I took. You must have taken French. It was mandatory for us. I had to
like-
take it through grade 10.
I took it from
10th grade
grade
for the others.
grade 4 to 9, so not that long.
Let me see if I can. Oh, this is crazy. I pulled up and you and I are laughing together. French statement.
You're gonna try to read French right now?
If I can.
Wow, this is very exciting.
It's everything's coming here.
So why don't you just speak some French? Why don't you do the rest of this review in French? This match.
Je ne sais pas.
Is that even the right way?
I have no idea. I can't speak French. I can pronounce French.
Le Miz.
Yeah. So that was this segment, and then the Drifter walked in, and the Drifter drifted off.
Yeah, this guy, I guess, flies in to whatever town every single week to do this. I'm assuming he's wrestling on the house shows, right? Is he?
Yeah, he's on house shows
So at least he's doing that.
here and there.
I would like to see him learn some new songs, though, by this point. He's just doing the same, like,
Well, he has the time.
chord. It feels like he's just playing one chord the entire time.
They announced Neville and Austin Aries for Extreme Rules. I'm not quite sure why. I guess because of Neville's.
Yeah.
Neville got disqualified in their last
I'm sure.
one.
Didn't Aries win some #1 contenders match either? Maybe that was before. I forget. But yeah, he didn't get a fair shake last match.
You're right. He won the.
It was a DQ.
Yeah, it was the DQ off the finish.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's our third straight pay-per-view between these two, is my point.
Who else is there?
Grand Metalik.
Not yet.
Neville and TJP took on Austin Aries and Jack Gallagher, and we've come a long way from Vince instructing Shane and Stephanie to break the law if they have to one-up each other, to Michael Cole giving a shout-out to our friends over on SmackDown who have their own pay-per-view this Sunday, as he plugged Backlash.
Break the law.
Don't you remember the promo when Vince announced the two as the general
Oh,
managers?
right.
He wanted them to commit crimes against one another, to have the better show.
They've always
to
done
battle for ratings.
Yeah, they've always done stuff like this, though.
I'm just officially giving the last rights to the brand split, the conflict. It'll really sell Survivor Series when our friends are going to be facing us for a winner take all.
I can buy that Vince would mandate the other brands to help sell the current brand's next show.
Neville and TJP against Aries and Gallagher. Aries took on both on the floor. They quickly went to the break. They returned. TJP was in control. Eventually made the hot tag to Gallagher. Aries got in here too and hit a double sledge to Neville off the top. Gallagher did his headbutt to TJP. It sounds so goofy to say it over and over again. That opening last week is just, it's burned something in my brain now. So when I hear that, I must have heard those letters in succession about 80,000 times last Monday night. Aries hit a discus 5-arm on the floor, which did no assistance for his tag partner, who immediately took a detonation kick inside the ring and was pinned by TJP. And the crowd, I know some people thought they were really hot for this. They were clearly distracted.
Oh, yeah.
They were chanting for Derek Jeter during this.
Yeah.
They weren't paying attention to this at all.
I mean-
the reaction was to whatever was going on in the crowd.
It looked like a decent match to me, but I can't really say because I was really distracted by this crowd. And initially, I heard this reaction. I was like, wow, this crowd's actually getting into this match. They're giving these guys a chance. Then I realized they were chanting, "We want beach ball." And they were all focused on the beach ball guy getting kicked out. And as a result, they decided to retaliate with CM Punk chants, Derek Jeter chants. I even heard some "This is boring" chants, and I didn't expect it necessarily from a Newark crowd. So
The sweat
unfortunate.
gland. They
The
were
sweat
pissed.
gland.
We've been insulted all night.
Yeah, I guess so. But don't take it out on these guys. They're working hard.
They plugged all of the WWE Network programming this week, including they have moved the UK premiere. They had listed it on their schedule for Thursday, and even as of this afternoon, it was still up there for
Head to
Thursday.
head against Impact.
Yeah, so now it's been moved to Friday. It's going to air, and it makes much more sense. It's going to air at 3 p.m. Eastern, which is 8 p.m. in the UK. So that's going to be happening on Friday. And then, of course, they've got TakeOver Saturday, Backlash Sunday. What of those 3 shows, what are you most interested in?
TakeOver or Backlash?
Or even the UK show?
I haven't been paying as close attention to NXT as of late, so
I think it's going to be a good show.
uh,
Jim Ross is calling the Pete Dunne Tyler Bate match.
NXT is always takeovers are always quality, so I'll definitely check that out. But I'll check out Backlash as well.
Then Bayley is being checked on by a trainer, icing her right shoulder after the kendo stick attack. The goofball walks in and says, "Those kendo sticks are no joke." And Bayley tells Kurt, "I know it's going to be a bruise." And Kurt says at Extreme Rules, "You're going to have a straight-up wrestling match." And Bayley says, "That's not fair, Dad," and wants her revenge after Bliss humiliated her in front of her family. "I'm ready to get extreme." "Are you sure?" So Kurt makes it a kendo stick on a pole match.
A kendo stick match, fine. Why the pole? You know, like
You've got to have a struggle.
I understand the need to suspend it from something, yes, but to call blank on a pole just immediately like takes any edge or danger or seriousness out of the stipulation. You know what I mean? Anything on a pole, it just becomes goofy and comedic.
Goldust and R-Truth were in the locker room, and Truth comes in. He feels bad about last week's tag turmoil loss. He let the team down. Goldust replies, "So what?" Truth says that he's helped him when he's fallen down, and he tells Truth to smile. They're going to prove what they have tonight against Gallows and Anderson. This was so telegraphed, but in the best way possible. Like, I sensed instantly what was happening, and I thought it was great. Just have that small tease here of just Goldust, almost like he didn't even care about last week. Finn Balor took on Roman Reigns. Balor had his left shoulder all taped up, selling the injuries. Reigns, I will say this. I'm not the biggest Suicide Dive fan, but I've got Akira Tozawa. I'm not the biggest fan of guys running shoulder first into the post, but Roman Reigns was fucking Usain Bolt launching into this thing. This was one of the finest shoulder post spots I have seen.
And it needed to be because he was selling the
It
shoulder.
looked great.
Yeah.
It looked fantastic. This guy went in there at an incredible velocity. He's one of the highlights of the year. This shoulder spot. It was great.
Wow.
I wish he had sold it more as a result of this, but he made his comeback quickly. Drive-by sent Balor into the post in the corner. Then Balor hit him with a double stomp, was working on the ribs, hit a sling blade, and then sets up for the running drop kick, but Reigns hits the Superman punch for a near fall. Reigns then goes for the spear, but runs into a knee. Balor hits a sling blade, running drop kick, and then climbs to the top, but Reigns knocks him off as the fans boo, and Reigns spears Finn and pins Finn clean.
Pins Finn clean. But I thought an excellent match.
Very good match.
Very good match. Best match of the night, in my opinion. And plenty of credit not just to Finn Balor, but to Roman Reigns here, who I thought sold really well. I think the crowd reaction that he brings as a result of whatever type of character he is at the moment intensifies every match he's in. And, this certainly was a case here. I personally wouldn't have put Reigns over Balor clean. I think Balor is somebody who still deserves to be protected until you get to that eventual title match again. But maybe this is a sign of him, losing now and maybe winning later.
I could see Finn winning at Extreme Rules because I don't think it's going to be Reigns. I don't think it's Wyatt. And I think that Rollins and Joe are going to peel off. I think there's a really good possibility Balor's going to win at Extreme Rules to face Lesnar in July.
And thus, did you agree with the booking here?
I didn't have the biggest problem with it. I thought no one's pinning Reigns. Reigns is going to be, the protected guy, and I don't think anyone's pinning him until WrestleMania next year.
Why should anybody pin Balor?
Because Balor is not the number one priority.
Even though he's going to get a title match at Great Balls of Fire?
Yeah, even that. I mean, wait. Do you
Okay.
want me to use our Sheamus Cesaro logic of going for titles? Listen, as much as people will complain about this, I mean, I think at the same time it's protecting who is their number one guy in Reigns, who is going to be like the other way around. Would you have justified Finn pinning Reigns here
Well,
clean?
I would say if you had Finn pin Reigns clean, which I wouldn't have done either. Even if you did that, at least Roman Reigns has a whole 10 months to rebuild himself before that ultimate matchup against Brock.
See, I see it comes out of the pay-per-view where Balor wins, not pinning Reigns, and Reigns is still has the claim that he is the one that deserves this title match, and yet he's been thwarted again. He doesn't lose the fall at Extreme Rules, but Balor, the guy he has beaten, is the one who gets the title match. So I think it keeps this chase on for Reigns. The question is, how long can you lengthen that chase?
Yeah. No, I totally get it. They have a lot of TV content to fill and a lot of matches they have to do with results. And if you have to protect some guys and not protect others, I guess you'll run into situations where your upcoming challengers will lose clean on TV.
I don't have the same belief. If you can have this was a really good match, and I think losing a really good match, I don't think it hurt Balor in this. Bray Wyatt did a promo and said there is an evil that surrounds Monday Night Raw. It's called the Third Hour, referring to Brock Lesnar. He says this is his world, not to be confused with whose yard or universe this is. And everyone will worship his name. He's going to become Universal Champion and asks Rollins if he can stare evil in the eye or if he'll be gutless. So Charlie interviews Rollins, who laughs at Bray's comment calling him gutless, saying his knee almost fell off his body over the last year. That's really serious. A knee falling off the body. And Bray won't stand in his way of getting the title. His actions speak loud and clear, and he'll slay the beast. So then Goldust and R-Truth make their entrance. Truth is singing. They've got the text on the bottom of the screen.
One last time.
He gets into the ring and he asks the audience, "What's up?" And then I guarantee you 50% of the audience had to rewind because they were fast forwarding to get to the match and then realized they had fast forwarded through the angle.
Yeah.
Of a typical Goldust R-Truth angle. Because
or they just kept going.
They kept going and missed this entirely. Goldust attacked R-Truth from behind. There was a small chance of thank you, Goldust, but it wasn't deafening, but was audible. Tossed Truth to the floor, and then finally Goldust says, "That's what's up." I thought this was great.
It was very good. Yeah, you knew they were breaking up, but you didn't know specifically who was going to turn heel or who was going to be babyface until tonight. And yeah, I'm glad Goldust is getting one more run. Unfortunately, with it being against Truth, I don't expect it to get that much attention, nor do I expect the matches to be all that strong. I feel like the beatdown here should have been a little bit more severe, and
Do you think he could have used a kendo stick?
maybe an ambulance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, though. But
They're probably going to have some kind of gimmick match at Extreme Rules.
yeah, I'm sure they
And
will.
I hope that Goldust can have a little heel run here as a serious character.
I hope so too. I really hope so too. I think the guy is still incredibly
He's a
talented.
completely underutilized performer at his age, and a really good promo as well. This Golden Truth thing it's been a waste of him.
Yeah, you can argue that guys who have kind of had the tenure of somebody like Dustin Runnels, and I'm thinking about the Big Show as well. People who have been in the company for this long and at this stage of their lives are still in very good physical condition. They also have the intelligence and the wisdom that they've acquired from all those years. And so in terms of their acting, in terms of their promos, they're as good as they've ever been. But the company has such a heavy roster of young guys waiting to get those spots that a role like this, I don't know if I see Goldust, being on the show for that long.
Do you see, at least for this feud or whatever this heel run is, that he sheds the gimmick?
No.
Or he keeps the Goldust
He
gimmick?
has to. That's everything. Like, nobody... I would change the channel if he wasn't Goldust.
Enzo and Cass are out afterwards. Enzo says he's the Michael Jordan of jargon, and he's from the state they call the Garden. He gets interrupted by Titus and Apollo Crews. And Titus did a mock version of Enzo's promo, insults New Jersey, started doing the Enzo dance. While Apollo is annoyed at all of this, he was able to elicit a chant of asshole. This crowd had heard enough about our poor state.
Yeah.
And
they're probably chanting it at us right now, listening to this.
I thought Titus was pretty entertaining here.
I thought this was the best thing Titus has done in months.
Maybe ever. Name me the better segment.
Back. I'll have to really dig back.
Oh, go into those primetime players, best ofs. Yeah, I thought he was really entertaining here.
He did some great stuff with the press conferences that were done for .com.
You enjoyed those a lot.
Yeah.
I would say this was ahead of those press conferences for me. I thought he was really good here. If there's a negative, it's that Apollo is just so forgotten. Like, if this is designed to get... I didn't think Apollo just stood out at all here.
So Cruz's game, at least in this segment, was to act like he didn't want to be a part of this. But
why is he?
Because this is his slow turn. This is Apollo's slow turn. You know,
they've done a very poor job of explaining this. Like, why is he?
Well, they're explaining it now. They gave reason for Apollo to align with.
He's disgusted by this guy. So what does he see as any value to attaching himself to him?
Why don't you finish the recapping the segment first?
So Cass explains it's not Apollo versus Enzo tonight. Instead, the match is Cass versus Titus. And Cass finishes the promo. Titus also mentions he's doing a TED Talk at UCLA.
Yeah, and this got booed. I would love for these fans to show up at the TED Talk and give this reaction. I can't believe a TED Talk got booed.
I thought this was going to result in Cass announcing him and Titus have a taser match at Extreme Rules.
Oh, my.
That will be filmed. Cass took on Titus, who was just in his suit for this match. He took his belt off and was going to whip Cass when Enzo got on the apron to distract him, and Cass landed his big boot and pinned him in a minute 10. Enzo then tried to take a selfie afterwards, and Apollo laid out Enzo.
Because Apollo was really disgusted that Enzo would take a selfie of this man.
Well, Enzo was made to look a fool here in his home state.
Why do you say that?
Because Apollo just laid him out like a goof.
Yeah, because Enzo was doing something that was considered annoying, at least to Apollo Crews. I didn't think he looked goofy.
So, I think he looked like he was made to look foolish.
Thus, you have Apollo Crews, who in the earlier segment was reluctant to join Titus. Now you give him a reason to band together with Titus against Enzo and Cass. So it's a slow turn, I would say, for Crews.
It's something for Crews. I think this segment did much more for Titus than Apollo.
I'm sure it's to get both of them over eventually.
We got Aries against TJP announced for 205 Live, and then our man is in the locker room with Neville. And he says they had a good night tonight. They both win. We're like a walking festival.
A walking festival?
What is a walking festival? Is it just...
No, I think they meant like they're a festival with a lot of wins. Like, I don't know. People win at... I don't know.
How about winners? They're like winners. Neville says that TJ's title shot is just around the corner, but they still have this problem with Aries. His knee is hanging on by a thread, just like Rollins was. And they can end it once and for all Tuesday on 205 Live.
Tuesday on 205 Live.
This could all come to an end.
Yeah. I mean, we've been very critical of TJP segments.
What are you talking about?
But I really enjoyed this, and I enjoyed Neville here as well. And I like they're giving the impression that Neville is using TJP to get what he wants, and ultimately not give TJP a title shot. So I feel like they're finally able to weave in some depth into these otherwise very superficial and bland cruiserweight storylines. So I have to applaud them for that.
SmackDown promo. On Tuesday night, we're getting Randy Orton against Baron Corbin, and the match I will design my entire schedule around Tuesday night. AJ Styles versus Jinder Mahal.
Oh.
I can't wait to see this.
Do you think it will be good?
I hope AJ wears a helmet.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to be fine.
I'm sure it'll be good. Do you think it'll be better than Randy versus Jinder?
Yes, I do. Very confident in that.
Hmm.
I wonder what kind of a reaction Randy is going to get in Chicago next weekend after his social activity over the weekend.
I feel like he'll get cheered.
You think he'll just?
I do.
You don't think it was enough of that?
I think it's a very small percentage of people who saw that.
Probably.
And probably a large percentage of people agreed with him.
Some probably did.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily feel like.
If there was ever a time for Randy to win a match with a 450, this one's it.
Wow. Or suicide dive.
Oh, could you imagine?
Yeah.
Main event, Bray Wyatt against Seth Rollins. They went to the floor. Rollins jumped off the barricade, got caught, and was driven into the barricade. After the break, Bray hit a superplex. Rollins fought back. Bray then cut off Rollins with a clothesline, which Graves described as an unholy thud. Bray then hit a Uranagi. Rollins came back with a Falcon Arrow, high cross to the floor by Rollins, and then while they're on the floor, Joe ran out of the crowd, attacked Rollins for the DQ, and then he hit Rollins with a Uranagi. Rollins is announced as the winner by DQ. Bray and Joe have a stare down, but then they join together, stomping down Rollins. Bray then spins Joe around, and he hits Joe with the Sister Abigail, and then hits another one to Rollins to end the show.
I found the crowd quite subdued for this, probably because it was in the third hour, but also because I sensed the characters not being as over as Finn Balor nor Roman Reigns. So to compare the two matches, this definitely felt a lot more dull. It was decent.
Yeah, decent is about what I would call this.
But I would say largely a big part of it being the crowd reaction that affected it.
Yeah, and I don't know if the second hour is, especially now in the spring, is typically your most viewed hour, and maybe that was the thinking. Let's put Reigns and Balor on then instead of the end of the show. I don't know, but I think for just crowd reaction, you would have had a much stronger reaction flipping those around. But nonetheless, I thought this was a much improved Raw from the last number of weeks, which were very tough for yours truly to get through, and I thought this was an improvement over those. And you got, I thought, two really good match with Balor and Reigns, and a pretty good match in Ambrose and Miz.
And let's be fair, last week they were handicapped with the Braun Strowman news and had to kind of book a show without any real direction. This week they had that direction, and they were able to lay it out really clearly and effectively for Extreme Rules. So we're going to have to expect the next 4 weeks.
6 hours and 20 minutes left of our build to Extreme Rules.
Yeah, so
next week,
good luck.
Matt will beat Cesaro.
Yes.
And then the following week, maybe we'll do a non-title match with the Hardys winning that. And that should get us into our tag title program for Extreme Rules. So let's quickly, before we go, the card that they have announced thus far for Extreme Rules, in addition to the Fatal 5-Way, we've got the Hardys against Sheamus and Cesaro for the tag titles. We have Dean Ambrose against The Miz with the title changing on a DQ. Alexa against Bayley in a kendo stick on a pole match. And then Neville against Austin Aries for the Cruiserweight title.
Presumably with the stipulation. No DQ for that one, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe they can do something.
That's
maybe
why they can't do no DQ for Miz and Ambrose.
First to tear the other's ACL. So they're working on the knee.
The no suicide dives match.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah. Randy, sorry, that's Backlash.
If you do a suicide dive, you lose the match.
Yeah.
It's a literal suicide dive.
Or how about a match with only suicide dives?
It's a stamina
In
contest.
order to get out of the ring, you have to suicide dive. In order to get into the ring, you have to suicide dive.
What if they
Only
just were in the
suicide dives.
ring and they did tandem suicide dives and it's a distance contest?
Like a long jump? but with
Exactly.
Suicide
It's
dive?
exactly long jump. But face first.
I would love to see it, yes. That would be extreme.
All right. You and I should run a show. This would be
Yeah.
much easier. All right. That's going to wrap up the show, but we'll be back on Wednesday. It is Review Jinder Mahal, AJ Styles, a special show. I can't wait. I hope they get 30 minutes. I hope it closes the show. And then I hope they're both on Talking Smack to give a blow-by-blow rundown of this classic that is going to happen to those in Manchester, New Hampshire. So that's coming up Wednesday. Review of SmackDown later on this week. All of our usual shows will have a preview of Backlash with Jimmy Corderas. Bauer and Pollock is back this week. And we've got Review Away, where you and I are chatting DDT inside the apartment.
I'm really excited for it. I'm also really impressed that we've received already a lot of feedback for the show
This is a big one.
from people who actually went out of their way to watch it. And if you are interested, can you describe the show?
No, I can't.
Okay, I will do my best. Kota Ibushi, who we all know and love, is hired by two guys
It's an apartment that's being condemned.
to go into an apartment, and an apartment that's about to be torn down. But he's hired by these two people to go into an apartment and to defeat all the wrestlers that live inside this apartment. And he makes his way up every floor. On each floor, he'll find one wrestler,
Sometimes two.
sometimes two, doing things that maybe I can't describe here. Otherwise, we'd really lose our YouTube license. Anyway,
So tune in Friday.
it's great, and it's also the links are available for this show.
Go to lawradio.proboards.com. You can watch this endeavor and then leave your feedback
Do not watch it at work,
or a cafe.
unless you're facing a corner, then that's cool. Or do not watch this with children. That's for sure.
And Chris Charlton will be on the show as well to give you all the information you need, not just the history of DDT, but on this specific event, I guess we can call it. That is coming out Friday, one of the more anticipated review-aways we have done in quite some time. So all of that. Two other notes. Jason Agnew, Braden Harrington, and Bartender Dave will be up Saturday night after TakeOver with a special show. And then Sunday night, we'll be live on The Law after Backlash. There is an NHL playoff game, which will be ending right around 11:15. And the good people at TSN, okay, they have told us they are going to cancel their post-game coverage to get to The Law right away. So we should be on right around 11:15 as soon as the game is over. So a big thank you to TSN for getting us on as early as possible after this playoff game. So that's all coming up this week. You can check it all out. LiveAudioWrestling.com. For Wai Ting, I am John Pollock, and answer the secret question. Each week, you have a chance to win a t-shirt from Pro Wrestling Tees during Review of Raw. All you have to do is pay attention for the secret question and then submit your answer at Law Radio on Twitter, and you'll be entered into a draw to win your t-shirt, including our own brand of shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com/law.